One of the biggest deals in the history of British football moves a step closer as the date for Florian Wirtz's Liverpool medical is revealed. Hi there, welcome along to the Transfer Show. The window is back open and the deals are now expected to flow. And joining me to discuss them all, good evening, Mark McAdam and Michael Bridge. This hour, this is what we'll be talking about. Sky in Germany named Nico Williams preferred destination. Will the complex deal for one of world football's emerging stars make it possible? We'll see how the first piece in a potential domino effect for left-backs involving multiple Premier League clubs has moved closer as well. Yeah, that is all to come over the next hour of the Transfer Show. But let's start with the developing story surrounding Florian Wirtz, and the process of him formally becoming a Liverpool player has moved a step closer. Michael, has it not today? Bring us up to date.
Absolutely, yes. It is moving closer and he's expected to have his medical on Friday. And he's going to fly into the UK later this week. And those tests will be done around Friday. And he's coming back from his well-earned pre-season, post-season holiday. Remember, they've agreed a £116.5 million deal with Bayer Leverkusen, £100 million payment up front, plus £16.5 million in potential add-ons. It's very, very, very exciting transfer for Liverpool Football Club. I know we've talked about it's a lot of money. Liverpool are spending a lot of money, but let's be honest, they didn't spend a lot last summer, and I think Arne Slot has more than earned the right to make it a new Liverpool. So to reiterate, Florian Wirtz expected to have his Liverpool medical, Liverpool fans, Friday.
And Mark, given, it's a big financial deal, and so often in these cases, these become sagas, don't they? They go on for weeks and weeks, and we're talking about them for the whole of the summer window. And given the fact they've beaten off Manchester City and Bayern Munich to sign Vertz, it seems, this process seems to have been relatively seamless.
Yeah, I've been impressed with the way Liverpool have operated so far in this summer's window. They've clearly identified the players that they want to strengthen the side, and they've gone out and got them nice and early. Now, teams that operate quickly often get the business done nice and smartly. They've got players that they've targeted. They don't have to go through long, drawn-out sagas and negotiations. They just get it done, get the players in, and it means that they can relax. And depending on what happens elsewhere in the window, the market forces are not going to affect them. So, for example, the benchmark for a young, exciting European midfielder, Florian Wirtz, is now 100 million plus. Now, if you're going to sign a player right now, but you're looking at that going, well, Liverpool have paid that, so this is what we want, then you're in trouble. Whereas Liverpool have just gone and paid what they're comfortable paying. There are a lot of add-ons, and that's important to point out. The 16.5 million that are in add-ons are dependent on Liverpool's success. So if Liverpool can win multiple trophies and Florian Wirtz is at the heart of it, therefore Liverpool don't mind paying that extra money to buy a Leverkusen. What you've got at Liverpool now is a really good trio of people at the top of the ship. Arne Slot, the head coach, Michael Edwards representing FSG, and Richard Hughes, the sporting director. Now, I remember Michael Edwards, I actually applied to work for him when he was an analyst, the head analyst at Portsmouth under Harry Redknapp. Yeah. Incidentally, I didn't get the job, but he's been in football a long time. Richard Hughes played in the Premier League, 15 years experience as a sporting director at Bournemouth from League One right the way through to the Premier League. And Arne Slot, an experienced head coach as well. So you've got people that are all on the same page. Liverpool are incredibly well run. They're very targeted with the business they want to do. Yes, they didn't do anything last summer, but they knew that what they had in the building was a good benchmark to go from. They knew that Jurgen Klopp had left a successful squad, lots of talented youngsters, and some real quality at the highest level there. They've just allowed that to develop. Now they've got a real idea about where they can improve, and that's exactly what they've done at the start of this window.
How differently life could have turned out if you've got the job at Portsmouth, eh?
I might not be sat here.
They're
Liverpool.
lost.
Well, you won't be, will you? No.
Well, listen, earlier on we got a bit more on Vertz. We spoke to the European football expert, Kevin Hatchard, and he told us that Liverpool fans can expect a player who can deal with the pressure of what is such a huge transfer fee.
Yeah, I do think he can deal with the pressure because he's dealt with that kind of expectation since he burst onto the scene. He was seen as a rising star in German football and he started delivering pretty much from the get-go. He became the youngest ever scorer in Bundesliga history at the time when he scored at 17 against Bayern, so already rising to the big occasion. When he was pushing for Bayer Leverkusen's first ever Bundesliga title, he delivered. I mean, that goal against Werder Bremen was part of a hat-trick, his first ever senior hat-trick. And that was the game that clinched the title for Bayer Leverkusen. So when the pressure's on, he tends to deliver, he tends to step up. So there's nothing in his history that would suggest that he'd be really worried or nervous about making this move.
Yeah, he can handle the pressure. That sounds good, I'm sure, to Liverpool fans. We've taken a closer look at what Liverpool are getting in Florian Wirtz, Mark, and his attributes, and the scouting report, which focused on his performances last season. What can Liverpool fans expect?
Well, they can expect a player right at the top of his game. He may only be 22 years old, but there's no question that he has so much to offer Liverpool. When you look at the numbers, they really do stack up at the moment. And this looks like a lot of data and information right there, and it is. But the important thing to point out is that this is accumulated across the top 5 European leagues in the world. So when you look at the Bundesliga, La Liga, Serie A and the Premier League, these are all numbers that are brought together. And when you see a high percentage, 99%, 98%, he is right up there. So the numbers stack up. And you just have to look at the situation when it comes to assists. He's in the top 1% in the top 5 leagues in Europe. The same with passes completed, take-ons completed, touches, and then, of course, position 1 in the final third. His numbers are some of the very best. And that's one of the reasons why Liverpool have gone and spent in excess of £100 million on Florian Wirtz. They were losing a massive player in Trent Alexander-Arnold, someone that was hugely creative, but he did it from right back. They've now got a more orthodox creative force. Someone that can play as an 8, someone that can play as a 10, someone that can also play out wide as well. So he brings a real versatility. But it's those numbers, and we know that Liverpool have a data-based model when it comes to recruiting players, as well as going out and scouring the world. They do use data in their systems, and Florian Wirtz ticked all of those boxes. They've got someone who has good numbers, got good potential, fills the gap that they currently have, and I think it's his technical ability, his vision, his creativity. Those are the key things that Richard Hughes would have identified as to, this is the man we need. This is someone that can really change the dynamic of our attack, because Liverpool are going to play a large number of games. They're going to be in the Champions League, we know that. They're also going to play in cup competitions, and they're probably going to go deep into a lot of these cup competitions. So they're going to need a vast array of talent. He will fit in, without question, to that attack. I cannot wait to see him. And you just have to listen to some of those Bundesliga experts. We heard from Kevin Hatchard there. We've spoken to Florian Plettenberg from Sky Germany. Every single person talks about this man glowingly. They clearly feel he's got so much to offer. And I think he will, without question, be one of the leading forces, not just at Liverpool, but in European football for many years to come. And I think that's where Liverpool have put their money, and they've just gone, this is the right man. When you look at the statistics there, obviously the Liverpool players he's going to be compared to now, Jules.
Yeah. Well, because that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, look at these attackers they've already got. You know, it's a title-winning side, and we know about the ability of all these players. You talk about him being adaptable, and you're sure he will fit in, but do Liverpool have to change to accommodate him?
I think Liverpool will certainly have a plan in place. You don't spend £100+ million on one player for him to be shoehorned into a setup. You're going to bring him in and go, right, how can we get the best out of you? We need to redesign our attacking force because you are going to be a key part of it. You know what Mo Salah does? Hangs out on the right-hand side, wants to cut infield, wants to score goals, can do all the things that you want. He's one of those dynamic players that will bring that Liverpool attack to life. But this will just add a different dynamic, and I think that's where he'll be so intriguing as to what he'll bring. They've obviously watched a number of players. They've looked at various options. And without question, he was the best. And a lot of people say, well, this is just Liverpool chucking loads of money at a player that may or may not be very good. Well, the data certainly suggests he's the real deal. Liverpool don't very often go and spend huge chunks of money on one player, but it is something that they have done in the past. When they recognise someone that is going to completely transform that team, they'll go and get him regardless of the price. You saw it with Virgil van Dijk, £75 million. You saw it with the goalkeeper, Alisson, £70+ million. At the time, those were expensive deals. They were big money transfers, but Liverpool backed the head coach, backed their recruitment team and said, right, that person is going to completely improve what we do in that particular area of the pitch. And this is very similar. Obviously, since Virgil and Alisson were signed, the finances have changed and they've got bigger. So therefore, it looks like an eye-watering sum of money, but actually it's in keeping with what FSG have done in the past. They find the right player, he's going to improve the team, let's go and get him.
And getting it done quickly as well, as we told you. Medical due on Friday, so we'll keep a very close eye on Florian Wirtz becoming a Liverpool player. Mark, thanks very much indeed. Still to come, Chelsea's Enzo Maresca will definitely be in the market for more players this summer, but where does he need to strengthen?
For sure something is going to happen, and we said many times, when the window transfer is open, anything can happen.
Where will Marcus Rashford be playing come the end of the window? We'll be assessing his options this hour. And the first signing of the Thomas Frank era at Spurs has been completed as Matthias Tell signs on a permanent deal. But how much will that impact Frank's own transfer plans? That's all to come, but now let's focus on a man who has, dominated much of the early transfer talk this summer. That is Bryan Mbeumo. Will he be following Thomas Frank out of Brentford? And if so, will it be to Spurs or will it be to Manchester United? We spoke to the player yesterday, and you'll have seen that with us, I'm sure. Wasn't giving too much away, was he? Let's, before we come to the Spurs angle on this, get the Manchester United perspective with you, Mark. Linked with him for some time. They've got competition from Tottenham Hotspur. How confident are they of getting their man?
Well, Manchester United will be supremely confident of getting a player that they've identified as someone that can massively improve that attack at Old Trafford. We know that they're relaxed about their pursuit of Bryan Mbeumo. In fact, really, he had turned down other Premier League sides to get to the point where Manchester United were lodging bids for Bryan Mbeumo. Their first offer was rejected, which we understand to be around £55 million. But they know that Bryan Mbeumo has effectively chosen Manchester United. Now, we say effectively, that was at the point maybe a week, 10 days ago, when there were the teams at the table and he said, right, thanks very much for everyone's interest, but I've decided to go to Manchester United. I know Michael is going to interrupt me in a minute and say, hang on a second, things have changed at one North London club in the last few days, and therefore could that change the destination of Bryan Mbeumo? He has 1 year left on his Brentford contract, but the club do have an additional year, so therefore it's effectively a 2-year deal that would get Bryan Mbeumo out of his contract. We know that there is interest, and we know that Brentford want around £60+ million for the wide man who's been there since 2019. His numbers stack up, very consistent with what he does, brilliant relationships with every single person he's been at Brentford. Ivan Toney, Said Benrahma, Ollie Watkins. He's been a consistent force there, but has his Brentford days come to an end?
And if they have, it seems to point to Manchester United then. But, Michael, Thomas Frank's arrival at Spurs.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there have been discussions throughout the last week to 10 days, Brentford and Tottenham Hotspur, very amicable discussions. Thomas Frank, coaching staff, and initial discussions over Bryan Mbeumo. I think for Brentford, it's getting the deal they want, is it? I don't think they're necessarily interested on the club he eventually joins. There's Anton Semenyo Spurs are looking at as well, and there's a number of players around Europe Spurs are looking at in those attacking positions. I think for Mbeumo, what I understand is he's quite intrigued by a potential prospect of reuniting with Thomas Frank. For me personally, I still think it does lean towards Manchester United. Gone are the days about they want to play in the Champions League, they want to play in Europe. It's still Manchester United at the end of the day. But what Tottenham do have on their side is one, yes, they've got Champions League football and a manager he knows ever so well in Thomas Frank. So it's very much a wait and see. It's an intriguing one, but he potentially does have a decision to make.
Does the arrival of Matthias Tell affect a potential deal in any way?
Nothing to do with it whatsoever. Right. Matthias Tell was always going to stay. Ange Postecoglou said to me in a press conference that I've signed him for the long term. Unfortunately, Ange won't be there, but it will be Thomas Frank. But Tell's 19, he's still very young. Now, when Spurs signed Matthias Tell on loan, it was with an option to buy him permanently. Spurs have brought that fee down. That's what Spurs have done. But my understanding was it was always going to be a permanent, and also Thomas Frank has given the thumbs up on this deal. So that's an exciting one in itself. But Tottenham's transfer plans going forward have no bearing on the permanent sign of Matthias Tell.
I don't want to go away too much from the agenda, but Thomas Frank's record for developing players and improving players is sensational. You know, he worked with the Denmark under-16s, 18s. He's been around working with young players, and as obviously you just have to look at the roll call of honour of Brentford players that have all improved under him. I think he'll have a fascinating role in what they do over the course of this summer, and I think the recruitment will be one to watch.
So we'll see where Mbeumo maybe ends up, whether it be Brentford, Manchester United or Tottenham. Speaking of United, strikers, big talking point at Old Trafford this summer. We'll talk about Viktor Gyökeres in a moment, but let's start with Hugo Ekitike with you, Mark. Is he an option for Amorim?
He's certainly a player of interest for Manchester United. Obviously, they're exploring the market at the moment. They're looking to try and recruit a number 9. A lot of Manchester United fans will say, well, hang on a sec, what about Xerxes? What about Rasmus Højlund? We know there has been links, according to Sky in Italy, with a return to Italy and Inter Milan for Højlund. As far as he's concerned, he wants to stay at Old Trafford and fight for his place. Maybe be fighting against Hugo Ekitike or Viktor Gyökeres over the course of next season. Now, there has been initial talks between United and Eintracht Frankfurt. No formal bid at this stage yet. Manchester United just considering their options. We understand that personal terms are not likely to be an issue for Hugo Ekitike. The price maybe, though. Eintracht Frankfurt have said they want around 100 million euros for the youngster, someone who nearly joined the Premier League a couple of seasons ago because Newcastle very much interested, and we know how good Newcastle's recruitment has been over the last couple of years. So if you've got a team like Newcastle watching a young player, clearly means there's something there, but not the only striker. And I think that's the key thing to point out here is Manchester United have not put all their eggs in one basket. They're saying, well, yeah, he's one player that we like and we've opened dialogue. However, no bid yet, and that's always key.
And Viktor Gyökeres, another one, of course, strongly linked with Manchester United. Let's get a transfer update from Chelsea now, because I think, Michael, you've got something for us?
Yeah, it's something we know. We've heard from Enzo Maresca and Chelsea wanting potential wingers in ahead of the new season. They've made initial contact with Lyon for winger Malik Fofana, first reported by David Ornstein. They're looking at signing a winger in the summer. We know that they want to sign Jamie Gittins from Dortmund before the Club World Cup. They wanted to do that, but Fofana is 20 and has a contract until 2028 with Lyon. So we know Enzo Maresca's been very honest in what they want to bring in. He came off the bench and impressed against Manchester United for Lyon in the Europa League. So that's one to keep an eye on there. So we know Chelsea, even after the Club World Cup, are expected to be busy.
Just to let you know, by the way, thank you, Michael. On the subject of Chelsea, Liam Delap on the bench at the Club World Cup game against LAFC this evening. It's Nicholas Jackson who leads the attack. Palmer, Neto, Madueke among those starting for Chelsea. 8 o'clock kickoff against LAFC, and Delap, the new man, on the bench for them this evening. We'll talk more about Chelsea a little later on the transfer show, and after the break we're going to be focusing on the future of one of Spain's star players from the Euros, Nico Williams, being linked with some of the big clubs in Europe. We'll have the latest on here. Welcome back to the transfer show. The window has reopened. Let's focus now on the future of one of Spain's Euro 2024 winners, Nico Williams. Athletic Club's Nico Williams. Michael, one of the star players in European football at the moment. So much fun to watch as well. And you've got some news reaching us from Germany.
Yes, from our colleagues in Germany. Bayern Munich have been informed that Barcelona are the front runners to sign Nico Williams from Athletic Club, according to our colleagues in Germany. Now, fresh negotiations have taken place in the last 20 hours, and it's thought Barcelona have the best chance to sign Williams, and that's despite, we sort of get this in every window, potential registration issues with Barcelona. But despite that, Sky in Germany expect Barca to complete the transfer for the winger, and they will make those numbers work for Hansi Flick. Why would you want to leave Bilbao? I'll never know. It's a lovely place, Jules.
I suppose Barcelona and Munich aren't bad places to do to either. But I mean, there will be those saying, well, look, he's one of the stars of world football. The Premier League is the place to be. Would it be a surprise that he hasn't been lured over here, Mark?
In one respect, yes, because I think he's top class. He fits the profile of what every Premier League club is looking for. Young player, 22 years old, someone who's got huge potential, a match winner, a superstar, a potential global icon. But La Liga don't like letting their superstars leave the league. They will do everything they possibly can to help Barcelona within the rules to ensure he stays in La Liga. And obviously Sky in Germany saying that's his likely destination. We know that there's been an interest from Bayern Munich and Arsenal as well. However, they're not going to let one of the superstars walk away easily, particularly if there is a side like Barcelona that say, we want you. We know he has this brilliant relationship at Spain with Lamine Yamal, the future of Barcelona. We also know that they're friends off the pitch as well, and that will play a big factor in where he decides to go. So therefore, you can understand in that reason why, La Liga say, no, we have to make this work. We have to find a way to facilitate this financially for Barcelona. Not only can they sign him, but they can register him. The other reason why there won't be more clubs interested is because financially it will be a huge deal to make happen. He's on big money already. The contract will be huge if he were to sign for a new club. The registration fee, the bonuses, the signing on fee, the agency fee, all these things that you don't necessarily think of. This could be a package that costs 150 to 200 million over 5 or 6 years. So for any kind of club in the Premier League to do that kind of deal, you've got to have a lot of cash. And that's why potentially things are just stumbling when it comes to clubs going, well, can we invest that much money? Yes, we think he's the real deal and he's going to be brilliant in the future, but actually it might be quite an expensive deal to make happen at this stage, but you never know down the line. The other thing to just mention as well, the sporting director Deco has said they also like Marcus Rashford and they also like Liverpool's Luis Diaz. So there's 2 other names as well as Nico Williams that's on that Barcelona list.
Interesting. We'll be keeping an eye on them all, of course. Let's just switch focus now to a domino effect surrounding left-backs. One could impact on the other and so on. Let's discuss the 3 players we're talking about. Let's start with the first domino, if you like. This is Adrian Triffier to Bournemouth, and this went through today, Michael.
Yeah, done deal. Bournemouth player confirmed around lunchtime. 11 million plus 3 million add-ons, a 5-year deal confirmed by Bournemouth. Very, very highly regarded left-back. It just shows Bournemouth the way this football club have operated over the last few years. Great ownership as well. And again, it looks like another promising signing. Will he provide competition at left-back or will he not? Let's go to Mark McAdam.
What are you saying?
You've got great context of Bournemouth. That's all
OK,
anything.
I've covered Bournemouth for a few years now. And, this is obviously a huge signing for them. I know immediately everyone will say, Milos Kerkez, does that mean he's going to head out the exit door at the Vitality Stadium? Probably, looking likely. You're not going to have 2 top-class international left-backs in the same squad when you're not in Europe. So therefore, you believe this would make the way for Milos to head to Liverpool, which we'll talk about in a moment. On Triffier, 23 years old. He was amazingly also on the list of left-backs that Bournemouth were targeting when they signed Milos Kerkez. So he's a player that they'd scouted for a number of years before that list was created. They decided at the time to go for Kerkez, but they still liked the player. They've continued to watch and monitor him over the last couple of years as well. So they've actually got a database and a long period of time of watching his development and progression. So therefore, they know a lot about the player. And that's why they decided to act quite quickly. I think 11 million for a France international with a few add-ons is exceptional business, and they've got it done nice and early in the window. In May this year, he made his 150th Ligue 1 appearance. He's been a massive player at Rennes, and not only is he an important starter for the team, he's been made captain as well. So Bournemouth have signed captain material, and we know what that brings. When you're a captain, it means you're a good voice in the dressing room. You're a good person that people look up to. You've got those leadership qualities that are important on and off the pitch. So the fact that Bournemouth have got that has been brilliant. Not only is he a robust player, technically he's very good. He's very good going forward. Rennes like to play a back 3, and he's played as a left wing back. So not only can he play as a conventional left back, but when you're a left wing back, you've got to get forward, you've got to get to those advanced positions, and your quality in and around the box is so much more important. Bournemouth believe he'll also be a goal threat as well, which could be really important. You saw Milos Kerkez come up with a couple of important goals. So not only does he bring that, but his character and profile off the pitch is something that Bournemouth were excited about. really good guy. All the references they got on the player were exceptional. He fits into the mould and profile of what they've been doing in transfer windows over the course of the last few years. So Bournemouth are really excited about this player, and they also believe that whilst he's had a little taste of international football with France, they believe Bournemouth can give him the platform to go and challenge someone like Luca Digne and be the #1 left back for France. So therefore, this could be a really exciting signing, and hopefully, you know, maybe in 2 or 3 years' time, we might be talking about Adrien Truffert going to another side. Bournemouth won't like me for saying that, but their recruitment has been so good over the last few years that that's exactly what's happening. Yeah. Players are going to Bournemouth, they're getting put in the shop window, they're developing, they're improving, and then they're moving on.
And that's exactly what happened, of course, with Kirkesh, who now looks like he could be off to Liverpool for a lot more than the 11 million that Bournemouth have paid for Truffert. And then you ask the question, well, what would that mean for Andy Robertson, who's been linked with a move to Atletico Madrid and the chance to link up with Diego Simeone? They're a match made in heaven, maybe? So says European football expert Kevin Hatchard.
Make a left-back in a lab for Simeone and you'd come out with Andy Robertson, I think, because what he loves is he loves experienced guys, competitive guys, guys who are winners. And that's what Andy Robertson is. You look at his career at Liverpool, he's won pretty much everything there is to win. And I think you look at what Kieran Trippier did at Atletico, he became a really important cog in their title-winning machine there. And Simeone absolutely did not want to let him go when he went. So I would put Andy Robertson in that similar category, somebody who's got lots of Premier League experience, real competitor. I think Simeone would love him.
Right, let's move from that left-back dominoes to all things Crystal Palace. You've got a bit of news for us, Michael?
Yeah, Crystal Palace expected to announce the signing of Walter Benitez in the next few days. He's a goalkeeper, passed the medical, I understand, over the weekend. He's 32-year-old. He's left PSV at the end of last season, so he should be a Crystal Palace player and will go up against Dean Henderson. It's going to be, hopefully for Palace fans, a very, very enjoyable season if they can stay in the Europa League.
Well, this is the thing, isn't it? I mean, and they're preparing for next season now. There's still a bit of a question mark over that. But what a year they've had. How much work now needs to be done by this man to prepare them for what they hope will be a crack at Europe next season?
Oliver Glasner is ultra ambitious. He just wants to push on, push on, push on. Steve Parish is aware of that, and they're trying to get the quality of player for Oliver Glasner. My understanding is their transfer policy is carrying on with the assumption that they're going to be in the Europa League. It would be absolutely heartbreaking if they're not. They were absolutely unbelievable in that FA Cup final. And imagine Crystal Palace supporters on away trips in the Europa League. We'll have to wait and see. There's still no decision yet, of course. But look, I sort of say it every summer, but Palace do recruit well. It's going to be a summer without Dougie Freedman, so there's going to be a bit of a difference this time around. He's recruited ever so well. He's a master in the EFL in terms of recruitment. They've got Adam Wharton, who's a brilliant signing from Blackburn. Of course, Mark Gay's future's probably still up in the air. Eberechi Eze's future may be slightly up in the air. Palace fans won't like me saying that. Jean-Philippe Mateta's been an absolute revelation last season, so he might be signing a new contract. What I am told, though, they are looking for top-class defenders, regardless of Gay's future. As I say, this man, ultra-ambitious.
Big summer for Crystal Palace, as it is for so many Premier League teams. Keeping an eye on them and keeping an eye on Chelsea, who we always expect to do business, don't we? They had 2 bids turned down for Dortmund's Jamie Gittens on the last deadline day a couple of weeks ago. Have they moved on to another target now? News of contact with another winger next. Welcome back. Let's give you a little reminder of some of the main transfer stories so far today. Florian Wirtz is expected to have his Liverpool medical on Friday. The German attacking midfielder will fly into the UK later this week. The Premier League champions have agreed a deal worth close to £117 million with Bayer Leverkusen, including add-ons. Manchester United are relaxed about their pursuit of Bryan Mbeumo, despite being aware of Tottenham's interest in the Brentford forwards. One source has told Sky Sports News that, as it stands, the player is leaning towards United. Barcelona are the front-runners to sign winger Nico Williams from Athletic Club. That's according to Sky in Germany. Fresh talks have taken place over the last 24 hours, and Barca are thought to have the best chance to sign Williams. And a done deal today. Bournemouth have signed the left-back Adrien Truffert from Rennes. The 23-year-old moves to the South Coast on a 5-year deal. It's an initial £11.4 million, rising to £14.4 million. Well, the football agent Kia Jarabshin expects to see a lot of action at the end of this month as clubs fall in line with PSR. We caught up with him at the launch of an event to mark Royal Ascot. He's been speaking with David Craig.
I think, there's going to be a lot of big players this summer. You've already seen some big action happen pre the World Club Cup, and you're going to see a lot of action happening after the sort of, I'd say, end of June, when some of the teams have to make some transfers to make the PSR numbers. Then you're going to see another big transfer towards July. A lot of player movements, but the problem is I think there's a huge lack of big talent at the moment that is for sale. So it's very difficult to buy these players out of the clubs, and that is where we're finding a major obstacle.
Right, let's focus on Chelsea now, who are frustrated, weren't they, in their deadline day pursuit of Borussia Dortmund's Jamie Gittens. They had 2 bids rejected for the winger. And speaking at the Club World Cup, Enzo Maresca says the club will be bringing in a winger this summer.
Jadon is not with us, so for sure that is a position that probably we need to do something. Also because, as you already know, Misha is not with us. So in this moment we have Noni, Pedro and Tai as a proper winger. So for sure something is going to happen. And we said many times, when the window transfer is open, anything can happen to bring players or to sell players. But we see.
So they are going to sign a winger. Michael, that's what he says. We know they like Gittens, couldn't get him in the last window. Do you see that happening? And if not him, who else in that position?
Well, we know we've got Carve out there for us. We're covering Manchester City and Chelsea, and he's spoken to us in the last hour, and he said they've made initial contact with Lyon for winger Malik Fofana. Now, we know they've been looking for a winger, and he's been very open there, hasn't he, the Chelsea head coach? But it's just, it could be Fofana and Gittens. We don't know with Chelsea at the moment. We don't know how Chelsea are going to look when the season starts. This is unprecedented, this new Club World Cup. I don't think they're going to have a proper pre-season. The league's going to start. Then you've got the Champions League starting again. We know Mykhailo Mudryk. We don't know his situation at the moment. Jadon Sancho's not going to be there next season. So it could be him and another. So we'll just have to wait and see.
Maresca was also talking earlier about goalkeepers, and he sort of laid out the order of his keepers next season. Robert Sanchez is number 1. But, of course, we do know that they were trying to get a deal done for Mike Maignan, Mark, in the last window at AC Milan. That didn't happen. Do you see them going back in for him?
Well, they will say, well, we were given the opportunity to sign Mike Maignan. AC Milan contacted us, his representatives contacted us and said, would you be interested in a potential deal? He's into the last year of his Milan contract. He's 29 years old. He wants to come to the Premier League. And Chelsea engaged in that conversation. They'll probably say, we didn't go out searching for a new goalkeeper. However, the fact that they continued those talks and there were alleged offers for him, which were not what AC Milan were looking for, would suggest that they were interested. Enzo Maresca's not going to turn around as well just before a big Club World Cup game and say, oh, yeah, actually, I'd like to sign a new goalkeeper, because that sends out the message that Robert Sanchez and Jorgensen aren't his number 1 and number 2 at the moment. He's got to make his current players feel like they're valid and important and a big part of the future at Chelsea, even if behind the scenes they're thinking, actually, that's a position we need to strengthen. So I'd imagine that Chelsea and goalkeepers will be a topic of conversation that will happen quite a bit between now and September the 1st.
Do you think they'll be busy in other areas as well, Chelsea, this summer?
Yeah, absolutely. I think they're certainly in the market for a winger. We know that Jadon Sancho's gone back to Manchester United. We know that Raheem Sterling comes back from Arsenal, but he's expected to go out again. They have been linked with 2 or 3 others in the Premier League. They are keeping an eye on other players in Europe as well. I think a winger, possibly a goalkeeper. I think there may be 3 or 4. I don't quite understand Chelsea's transfer philosophy, although they'll say, look, we really know what we're doing. We've got a plan. We're sticking to our plan. We've got targeted players that we're looking at. We've got a profile of player we're looking at. But I'd imagine that they'd be busy. When it comes to PSR headroom, they've got a lot of room to operate with. They've got money they can spend. And you get the feeling that if Chelsea have money they can spend, they'll go and spend it.
OK, Mark, thank you. That's Chelsea. Let's move on to Tottenham now. Thomas Frank has made his first signing as Spurs boss, making the loan deal for Matisse Tel permanent. It's a deal worth £30 million. Sports broadcaster Henry Winter joined Pete Graves and Dharmesh Sheth for the latest episode of the Transfer Talk podcast.
I think he will step into Tottenham Hotspur and just have an immediate impact. They won't have the 22 Premier League defeats. Whether he has a trophy in his first season or second season, I'm not so sure. I think he is fortunate in that he's going there at a good time in terms of he's got some good young players to work with. But he's also, and I know Tottenham Hotspur fans are slightly sensitive about this because of his Arsenal's connections, but Vinay Venkatesham, who has come in as the chief executive and gone onto the board, he's a really impressive individual. He's one of the most impressive chief executives and an individual who can run a club, a modern club, and do it with working with people, with his intelligence. Cambridge graduate like Daniel Levy, super bright individual, but he just gets on with people. He's very, I mean, you'll have interviewed him. He's a very engaging character, and I just think that Thomas Frank will work with him, and I think that's a good double act.
OK, Michael, let's take a closer look at what Thomas Frank needs to do, his to-do list, if you like, at Tottenham. How big a priority is Christian Romero and keeping hold of the centre-back, do you think?
Well, I thought he showed his leadership, his quality in the Europa League final. I think it got Tottenham over the line. Previous years, I think Tottenham are too nice in semis and finals. He's not nice. He wound up Harry Maguire for 95 minutes. He's brilliant for Argentina. He's a World Cup winner. Now, Christian Romero put out a tweet thanking Ange Postecoglou literally minutes after Thomas Frank's appointment. He was slightly critical in his statement as well. We know there's really strong interest from Atletico Madrid, and I can understand the interest Romero might have in playing for Diego Simeone. I keep hearing figures of 35, 40 million being quoted. Is that for his leg? It's not going to be anywhere near that fit. It's going to be a lot more. He's got a few years left on his contract. But I think Spurs would probably keep him for another year. If we're going to talk about those figures, it's going to have to be a lot more. And if Spurs did sell him, they're losing a really top centre-half. The only slight issue I'd have on Christian Romero is he's had a few injuries, but he's a top defender.
Important to Tottenham, you say. How important is Heung-min Son now, and what could the future hold for him?
He's a club legend. But I think we're getting to the stage now where if Tottenham received an acceptable bid for him, Spurs would consider it. But my understanding is that Spurs would give Heung-min Son the option, the final decision. That's the respect and the love he has at Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. But this might just be the summer where they might look to do something with him.
And just generally for Thomas Frank, when we talked about the success at Liverpool last season, when very little transfer activity with a new manager in place, Spurs have got a new manager in place. Are there going to be lots of incomings and outgoings or not?
They've got to add quality, Jules. I mean, look, believe me, the Europa League win for Tottenham supporters was winning a trophy. First European one in 41 years, first of any kind in 17 years. However, it's delivered Champions League football. This squad isn't ready for the Champions League. There's no harm in me saying that. Bryan Mbeumo is a quality player. Anton Semenyo, quality player. The players they're looking at are quality players. So they're going to have to bring some quality in. But there will be outgoings as well. I think Ipasuma potentially might be on his way out, reaching 29, a year left on his deal. Manos Solomon had a brilliant loan spell at Leeds. He might be on his way out. Brian Hill, I think, will go. And then there's a question mark about Richarlison. He's had a great few weeks. He's become a father. Congratulations to him. He's also back in the Brazil fold under someone he loves and knows, Carlo Ancelotti. But if he stays fit, I can imagine there might be some interest in him and might be one Spurs consider as well. Lots to do.
Lots to do indeed. Thank you, Michael. Thanks very much indeed. Lots of questions still as well over Marcus Rashford. Where is he going to be playing when the window closes at 7 p.m. on September the 1st? We will look at a story that could well run throughout this window. Welcome back to the Transfer Show. Got a couple more players to get through before we finish. Let's start with you, Mark, and the arrival of an Italian defender potentially at Brighton.
Yeah, Diego Coppola. 5-year deal has been done. The medical has been completed. It's 11 million euros, and he's currently away with the Italy under-21s in Slovakia. Got a senior cap, but a young 21-year-old centre-back from Hellas Verona. So, yeah, Brighton on the verge of getting a new centre-back. Fits the profile, young player.
Classic Brighton signing, really.
It's a classic Brighton signing. Yeah. You don't know Diego Coppola now, but you bet your life in about 2 or 3 years' time, you'll definitely know who he is.
Don't get too many wrong, do they? Let's be
No.
honest. Let's move on to a player we know a lot more about, which is Marcus Rashford. What is happening with Marcus Rashford? Do you get the feeling, Michael, this could be one of those transfers that rumbles on for most of the summer?
Very possibly. Now with Aston Villa not being in the Champions League, it looks highly unlikely he'd go back there. I think for me, looking at Marcus Rashford, what he needs to do is probably just have a really good pre-season with Manchester United. United are going to improve in the league. They're not going to have European football. Ruben Amorim is going to want to change the squad completely. Whether he gets that opportunity to, we'll wait and see. But surely, Mark, he just has to go away on pre-season and impress.
I think, yeah, he'll also turn around and say, well, look at my volume of work at Aston Villa. I've just had a really successful end to the season. I've proved that I can still play amongst the best players and teams in the Premier League. My numbers were solid. I was starting a lot of games. Only Aston Villa will know why they didn't action the 40 million option to purchase Marcus Rashford. The biggest problem that he has, and the problem that a number of players have in the Premier League, is he's on big wages. So therefore, it makes it difficult for another side to buy him because there has to be some kind of agreement on his wages. Manchester United obviously don't see him as a part of the future at the club, so therefore looking to try and sell him and will maximise what they get because it's 100% offsettable for PSR. That's why it suits them. And it'd be interesting to see. We know that Barcelona like him, but he is one of many players, Jadon Sancho, Jack Grealish, Raheem Sterling, that are all on big, big money, and it makes it more difficult for them to get that move, particularly early in the window. But the price for Marcus Rashford right now will be X plus this in wages. But in 6 weeks' time, it will change. And if you get towards the end of August, it'll be a very different deal from the one that exists now. And he might be one of those players that we're talking about right at the end of the window, possibly for a loan move.
And you mentioned the name Jack Grealish there. Michael, any news on his future?
Well, look, he's not with Manchester City at the moment, which is going to hurt, and it's pretty ominous, isn't it? I mean, this is someone who's clearly needs a change, needs a move. He's got his trophies, he's got his medals at Manchester City, but to not be in the squad over there says it all, doesn't it? And it's just, but it's the same. It's the repeat. All those players Mark's just mentioned all need to go somewhere else, but all on big wages. So again, all those players you've mentioned, we could be talking about them in August.
Yeah, that will be what happens. There will be superstars like Jack Grealish out there that are game changers, that are mavericks, that are outstanding players that can transform the game in a heartbeat, but they are expensive players to get through the door. And if you said to most Premier League clubs, would you like Jack Grealish? They say, yeah. The problem is finance. And that's where there is a stumbling block. But there will be someone that gambles on some of these players, and the gamble will pay off.
And just very briefly, Michael, could you see, I mean, Napoli have been linked, could you see that move working for him?
Well, he just has to give Scott McTominay a call, doesn't he, and say, like, how did your year go? Yeah, pretty well, actually. I won the league. You know, I was absolutely incredible. I've got Antonio Conte for another year. I'd go to Napoli.
Well, we'll see if that does end up as the destination for Jack Grealish. So many players. It's going to be fascinating to see what happens over the next couple of months. The window is open again, which means Michael and Mark are with us, of course, throughout these transfer shows. Great to see you both, gents. Thanks for
You're looking well.
The input. Thank you. Beer, transfer in, transfer out.
Yeah.
That's for another day. And we're going to tell you a bit about Gareth Bale. He once cost a pretty penny, didn't he? Why is he being linked with involvement at a League One team? We'll tell you more next.